Oh, great tune, great lyrics, one call away. I suppose we could change that to Skype if we were really being up to date. Anyway, if you just joined us, welcome along. It is Mike Bennett, Logan City's 101. We have the best guests in this studio. And there's a lovely lady here. In fact, I had to contact her by Facebook last night. I said, Sally, how do I pronounce your surname? Because I bet it's not as it's written. And she says it's Thibault, as in French. It's Thibault. So welcome, Sally. And I have to say, like a breath of fresh air, you have breezed into the studio this morning.
Oh, good morning, Mike, and thank you very much.
My pleasure. So, Sally was telling us across Logan and the Gold Coast, there's hundreds of women who turn 50 only to discover the attitudes of others make them feel invisible, especially when it comes to their career and business. And this is so true. And what I've found, obviously, as you can tell by my accent, Sally, I'm not from around here, Australia and Queensland in particular, quite ageist towards people. Once you hit that 50 mark, it's, they're on the scrap heap. And yet, as you mentioned off air, a lot of them are empty nesters now. They've got huge life experience. They can offer so much, but they're ignored, overlooked because, somebody younger, be a lot less to employ, a lot less hassle. Don't argue back. That's where you come in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Mike. And I think we're one of the only societies in the world where women over the age of 50 in particular are not considered or revered. If you have a lot of the First Nations, many of the Indigenous cultures actually revere women as they get older, but we are one of the only ones that doesn't. And, it's one of those times in your life where you actually begin to feel invisible, which is incredible. Yet, the fastest growing demographic for women starting new businesses is actually women over 50. Also, social media, fastest growing uptake are women in their 50s as well. So it's an extraordinary time for this, I call the third act. You're ready now for this next game. We've got more energy and we've got more wisdom, experience.
Absolutely, and it's experience that counts. I mean, it's really interesting how life in general has changed, because even when I was at school, anybody over 40 was considered ancient. Now 50 is definitely the new 40, without any shadow of a doubt. And we are still, I'm in my 50s, and still explaining to the kids, we telling them stuff on the computers that they should be doing. So exactly what you're saying. Why do you think it is, though, that in Australia there is this attitude, in particular towards women, over the hill?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. I think a lot of times it's about how we look. We're very judged by how we look. In fact, I remember last year being in Sydney with my daughter, and I said, let's go to a bar after we'd, had a dinner. And honestly, as we walked through this bar and there were men about my age, I may as well be invisible. I wasn't even there. Yeah. And it really made me realise how, as women, we have to step up and really begin to own our power. I thank goodness, Facebook wasn't around in 1970, because we've been dealing with a whole few different things. But we have this energy, we have this, and it's life experience, I think. Of anything, we've got life experience that you can't learn out of a book. We've been through it. We've raised children. We've tried to budget on nothing. We've made sausages and mince last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so now we have this incredible, but we've got a great stick it to it attitude. I think women over this certain age, we're not going anywhere. We find something we love. We're really to really research and get to know it. And I think for both employers and for women who are starting their business, we have at our fingertips the most extraordinary time.
Oh, absolutely. And I think nowadays more and more confidence is sort of coming, listening to people like yourselves, and you can stand up and say, hey, look at me, I've done this. And you need to be able to prove that. You need to be able to back that up as well. And I think from the women that I've met of a similar age, starting up your own business, working for yourself, being your own boss, far, far better than putting up with some of the stuff you have to put up with if you work for somebody else.
Absolutely. And, with access to technologies we have now, and social media and YouTube, and being able to video ourselves, as in your business. Absolutely. That you do, we now are not at the behest of other people. Years ago when I first began our first business, I was in the fitness industry for many years, we had to rely on letterbox drops and getting an ad in the newspaper. Exactly.
And Yellow Pages.
Yellow Pages, which are very, very expensive. You don't have to do that anymore. So women now, especially women that are my clients in particular, whose children are getting to that teenage years, or now sort of realising their kids don't need them as much, and where my husband and I at the moment, we're empty nesters, we have the ability to spend all this energy that we've devoted to our children and to relationships to actually move to focusing on what we want to do. It's a kind of almost a selfish time that's so wonderful. And we have the energy. We've got really good, radars that tell us when people aren't. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say on radio, but we have this radar that we know when people aren't telling us the truth.
Yeah.
We've come through the hard yards. We get it. And in particular, I think a lot of it's to do with releasing our own limiting beliefs, our self-imposed limitations about what we believe is possible.
And it's interesting because we had somebody on here a few weeks ago and I was talking about what I've learned, which as an outsider I can probably see it better. There is still this stereotypical Australian male who believes that the women should be in the kitchen. When they're not in the kitchen, they should be producing babies and that's it. What would you say to maybe a lady listening to us right now thinking, this sounds great, but that's easy for Sally. She's got the confidence. Look at me, I've not got the confidence. I don't know, I couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. And what would you say to somebody who hasn't got your level of confidence?
Well, it's interesting. Confidence is very subjective. There's been some times when I've thought, what the heck am I doing? It's about oftentimes stepping up, and just as I speak to when I'm talking to clients, sometimes you've just got to fake it till you make it.
Sure. Sometimes,
Sheryl Sandberg in her book Lean In talks about the imposter syndrome. I think we all have that part of us that feels that we never know enough. And that's a good thing, keeps us on the edge. I mean, I work with an energy psychology technique called tapping, which helps release those limiting beliefs, the stress around that. And what I found with that is that as you release those kind of, the voice that goes on in your head all the time about maybe I'm too old, maybe this is what
and
life
everybody
is.
has that, and I call it Captain Paranoia.
Yep.
And they sit, in fact I've got one on each shoulder and they argue with each other and I just let them get on with it. It's fine. I'll just do what I want to do. But women in particular, I mean, I know there's a couple of people that we know where it's obvious they've woken up one morning, they're in their 50s, they've looked in the mirror and they've gone, is this it then? Is this my life? I've produced the children, I've been the housewife. What is it for me? And is this it? Oh, well, I have to put up with it. But what you're telling me is that people don't have to put up with this.
No, not at all. It's interesting. In a generation, this has changed dramatically. I remember my mother in her mid-50s, looking forward to retirement. And it was kind of that whole, it was like, oh my goodness, we're in our 50s. Every time I see an ad for over 55 insurance, I think, oh, hang on a minute, they're talking about me.
That's me, yeah.
What the heck? No, it's not.
These are all... But don't you notice as well, on these adverts, they always put people in that are about 70 years of age. We don't look like that anymore. We've stayed young.
We have. We're at this fabulous time in our lives where, we have information about nutrition and health that we didn't have, 50 years ago.
5 years ago. We've got more. If you think back, just even 5 years ago, we weren't nearly as Facebook savvy. Twitter wasn't really around there. We weren't using the internet the way we're doing it now. There are no excuses. The information is absolutely there for anybody who wants it.
That's right. And the only thing that holds you back is what you believe possible.
Sure.
That's the only thing. And, when you see people, even on TV now, that the older woman is now being revered. It's not like it was, a little while ago. We've got a long way to come, though, because especially as you mentioned, Australia, I lived in Canada for many years and I really noticed a difference. There's just this underlying sense of where a woman's place should be.
I mean, it is a very sexist attitude, and unfortunately that attitude should have gone out in the 1930s, but it hasn't. Sally, this is fascinating. What I'm going to do, I'm going to play another tune. Sally is going to be with us for another little while in the studio because I want to know a bit about the book that you've written. And also you said that you had some pretty good confidence and energy tips that you can give our listeners this morning, which
Absolutely.
is great. If you've got any questions for Sally Thibault, you can add them on our Facebook page right now. If you're not already on our Facebook page, why not? You should be. We plug it often enough. I've also got my own show page. If you want to put a question on there, Sally will definitely be able to answer that. So if you just joined us, it is Mike Bennett. It's Monday mornings here on Logan City's 101. Sally Thibault with some great advice for any ladies who have turned 50 and just kind of wondering what to do with the career, with the business, with the life in general next.
Pretty woman, walking down the street.
The song is called Royals. We have royalty here this morning in Logan 101. Sally Thibault is here, and she's been telling us basically, you know what, it doesn't matter if you're over 50, over 60, it doesn't matter. If you want to do something, you can actually do that. And to prove the point, Sally wrote a new book at the tender age of 50. I can't believe that. That was what, 50? Seriously? Mm-hmm. You walk in here, this is no word of a lie, people. You look about 40 years of age, energy levels up here, putting me to shame. So you wrote a book at 50. Had you written anything before?
Yes, I actually wrote my first book when I was, let me see, how long ago was that? I would have been 55 when I wrote my first book.
Okay, so still into your 50s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, the first book actually started, as all good books do, about, after 3 bottles of wine on about 2 a.m. in the morning when someone said you should write your life story.
Yeah, do you know what? I've had without the wine, I've had lots of those conversations. And, I keep saying, I should do it because I've got a great story, but it's the old thing about finding enough time.
I know.
So anyway, so you wrote this book, but tell me about the new book.
The new book is a book called Tapping to Reclaim You, and it's a book to be read over a period of 30 days. And what I ask readers to do is to set a goal or intention they really want to achieve, and then we look at all the limiting beliefs that stop you achieving it, because I'm a great believer that once you set your intention on something, you can make it happen, and it's only our self-imposed limitations that hold us back. You hear extraordinary stories all the time of people who overcome the most incredible limitations and adversity. So we all can. So it's really what is we were just talking about before, what goes on in your mind about what we believe. And we come, Mike, you and I, the same era where the only time we ever got told we were special was when we were told, what makes you think you're so special? We came from a very different era. And
isn't it interesting, because when you speak to people of our age, they struggle to take a compliment. Mm-hmm. If you say to somebody, "Oh, you've done really well," "Oh, no, not really." Yeah. Oh, that was great. No, I could have done better. And it's this whole thing about, "Oh, no, you mustn't be seen." I hate false modesty. And if somebody does say to me, "Hey, that was good," I go, "Thank you very much."
Yeah.
But it was the era that we came from. It was very, very different.
Yeah, we were post-war. So our parents really struggled to put food on the table.
Absolutely.
Many of them. Our focus was very much on get a good education, get a job, and don't sort of step outside your world, because they came from an era. I know both my parents came from an era where they lost everything in the war. My mother grew up in New Guinea, and they had to leave everything behind. A beautiful life to come to. They settled in Malani, and that was a very different era. She had to give up school in Year 9 in order to support the family. So now, of course, we come from that belief now that we can do anything, but there's a part of us deep inside that goes, "Oh, no, you can't."
And it's very hard to control that as well, because we call it pattern matching. Obviously, you go back to things that maybe affected you that you didn't even remember. Some childhood trauma, and that kind of, no, I can't do that because. And as I say, when I have my tour, I just let them get on with it. So somebody listening right now thinking, "Oh, I don't know, maybe, okay." What can you say to them right now that might just get them crash through that mindset barrier that's holding them back? What's the first thing that you could offer them?
What's your biggest dream? That's the question I would ask. What's your biggest dream? If you could have anything you wanted, if you could do anything you wanted without that limitation of money or experience or life, what would it be?
Okay.
We all of us have 1,440 minutes per day. Every single one of us. How we spend that 1,440 minutes per day separates success and not success. And it doesn't matter where you are and what you can. We've all got the same thing. Doesn't matter how much money we've got. And so what we think about ourselves is the thing that often dictates that, holds us back, that procrastination. So first of all is looking at what would you really like? And second is to really get in touch with what is this limiting belief I have about myself? We've been talking all morning about 50 is the new 40. Actually,
Definitely.
I think it's the new 35.
Yeah,
we have
tons
of time. Tons and tons of time if we truly believe. So in the book, this energy psychology technique I use called tapping, what we do is we look at where this belief came from. You talk about the trauma capsule in the mind. We look at, this is an evidence-based psychology technique, we look at lowering the stress levels around that trauma so you can go, oh, okay, well, that doesn't need to hold me back anymore. What can I possibly do? And our energy level lifts. In fact, when I'm working with lots of people, one of the first things I notice is people actually look lighter, and that's why we have more energy.
Yeah, which is fascinating. And a lot of the stuff, I'm certainly, I got a great understanding of what it is you're talking about. And just interesting looking at backgrounds. I mean, I was a Glaswegian growing up in the 60s and early 70s, and we didn't know that we had no money until I met somebody who did have money. Because the parents, all of our generation, they did the best they could, so you just thought this was normal. And when you're living in a tenement block, you think everybody lives in a tenement block, and it's not till you come away. So, yeah, it is fascinating.
So true.
So the book itself, first of all, what's the book called?
It's called Tapping to Reclaim You, and it's about reclaiming who we are, because to me, success is not changing who we are, it's reclaiming who we are.
And also, how do you define success? To some people, success might be having a lot of money, having a big house, a boat, the big car, whatever. To other people, it might be, I don't know, getting on the Logie Awards last night or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's difficult. I would imagine if you said to somebody, so how would you define success? That'd be quite a difficult question for them to honestly answer. They might give you the answer that they think you want to hear, because people often do that. But would they be honest with themselves? I don't know.
Do you know, I'm asked this question a lot about defining success. And to me, the greatest success I have is when my kids say, "Mum, you are such an inspiration to me."
Absolutely.
To me, that's success.
Yeah. Job done.
A great relationship with my husband of 35 years, that to me defines success. To have incredible energy, to wake up every morning. You know, I put a post this morning, I always take photos of the sunrise. To me, sometimes just waking up and seeing the sunrise.
Yeah.
You know, waking up every morning, not everybody does that. And so to me, that's about just success. And also the energy that you put out. The people in your lives who... You make a difference to somebody each day. To me, that defines success. You know, the whole thing about money and homes and boats, you know, I think really we kind of get to our age mark and go, really?
Yeah, it's really not.
I'm not interested.
And especially, you know, without getting too morbid, we all know people that have been touched by serious disease.
Yeah.
Everybody listening right now will know somebody who's been touched by cancer, for example.
That's right.
And you think, actually, do you know what? All these materialistic things, they're not that important.
Yeah, well, I lost my mum. You know, mum passed away when she was 54, so she was a few years younger than me. And so the definition of true success for us, you know, was family, was holding that family together. And so for me, that's what success is. To me, a great relationship, you're healthy, you're doing what you love to do. That's success.
Absolutely, which means that my Monday mornings I am very successful, which is great.
Absolutely.
Love it. Okay, Sally, this has been absolutely fascinating. If people want to, first of all, find the book, is it available in bookstores? Is it online? How do they get hold of it?
It's currently online. They're best to go to my website, Sally Thibault, THIBAULT.com.au, and they can find out all the details there and upcoming seminars we've got coming. Mike, it's been just a pleasure to be here. You're really fabulous, and you were a success story yourself.
Oh, well,
fabulous.
Bless you, Cotton Salt. And you know what? When it comes to favourite studio guests, the one that I've had this morning between 10 and 11 is absolutely up there. Sally, it's been a pleasure. If anybody wants some more information, contact me here either via the radio station or via my own show page on Facebook, and I will pass Sally's details on to you.